Hello everyone, we are Group 5. Today we will discuss Ferdinand Marcos case. We are Group 5. In our group, we have 马静怡、杨佳音、于思雅、胡甜甜、蔡好天、方千涵、张子涵、张慧、薛贝妮 and Zhang Han.
Introduction. What is corruption? Corruption is the abuse of a powerful personal gain. It weakens institutions, hinders development, and destroys public trust. The Philippines today with over 10,000 million people. The Philippines faces deep inequality. In Malaya, luxury buildings stand next to slums, a reality shaped by years of corruption, the abuse of power. Why this course? We choose the Ferdinand Marcos regime because it shows how unchecked power and greed can harm an entire country. This course offers key lessons for fighting corruption today.
Okay, we will understand this case step by step in 4 parts. Ferdinand Marcos was the 10th president of the Philippines from 1965 to 1986. At first, many people liked him for his charm and war experience. He won the elections by promising to improve the country. In the early years, he built roads, schools, and made some good changes, which earned him praise from people in Philippines and other countries. But in 1972, Marcos said the country was in danger and declared martial law. He started 14 years of strict rule. He stopped people from speaking freely, shut down news outlets, and took more power for himself. His government became known as one of the most corrupt in Asia. With his wife Imelda, Marcos reportedly stole 5 to 10 billion US dollars from public money. They used this money to buy expensive houses, jewelry, art, and some of the designer shoes. Even though some business in Manila grew, over 75% of people there were still poor. At the same time, the country's debt rose to over 27 billion dollars, and the public service got worse. In 1983, when opposition leader Benigno Aquino Jr. was killed, it led to big protests across the country. This protest ended in the 1983 People Power Revolution, which made Marcos and his family run away. Later, investigators found out how serious the corruption was. The Marcos case becomes the famous example of the greed, abuse of the power, and the broken system.
Contributing factors. Several factors contributed to the massive corruption under Ferdinand Marcos. First, after declaring martial law in 1972, he held absolute power without meaningful checks. Second, the government silenced media and jailed opposition leaders, creating a lack of transparency. Third, power was concentrated within the Marcos family, forming a political dynasty that controlled key government and business positions. What's more, accountability mechanism was weak. Anti-corruption bodies lacked independence, and the legal system was heavily influenced by the executive.
Let's now examine the legal violations committed by Ferdinand Marcos and the corresponding punishments. First, under the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, public officials are prohibited from using their position to gain personal profit. Marcos abused his presidential power to accumulate wealth through ghost projects, cronyism, and manipulation of state contracts. This law prescribes a maximum penalty of 15 years imprisonment, permanent disqualification from public office, and forfeiture of ill-gotten assets. Second, his actions meet the criteria of plunder as defined by the plunder law, which covers cases where a public officer accumulates more than 15 million through illegal means. For this, the punishment is life imprisonment and mandatory recovery of stolen wealth. In addition, Marcos and his families failed to declare overseas assets and avoided taxes, an offense under the Philippine Tax Code, punishable by fines, seizure of undeclared properties, and possible criminal charges. Lastly, international cooperation played a vital role. Countries like Switzerland and the US froze Marcos-linked bank accounts and assisted the Philippines in recovering over 3.6 billion of his wealth.
The Marcos regime caused serious and long-lasting problems at many levels. On a personal level, the family's name was badly damaged. Ferdinand Marcos died in exile with the state legacy. Imelda Marcos was found guilty of corruption, and their family's wealth was frozen by international cuts. At the organizational level, government systems were weakened. The cuts and anti-corruption groups lost power, and the media and civil society were silenced. During martial law, which had public oversight, at the national level, the country faced a a huge foreign debt of $27 billion by 1986. This led to a major loss of public trust, long-term economic troubles, and a badly damaged international image. These outcomes show how authoritarian rule can harm a country's people, its institutions, and its future.
Let's talk about the measures to address the issue. In 1986, the Philippines formed PCGG to reclaim Marcos L. cotton wealth. They recovered over $3.6 billion from banks and privatized overseas. New laws strengthened anti-corruption work, and the Ombudsman's office was set up to investigate international corruption. Countries collaborate. Swiss courts frozen over $400 billion. U.S. court sized mentions. Transparency International dips at the top 10 global corruption case. UN and World Bank mechanisms. Philippines joins asset recovery initiatives. World Bank's integrate TVP fights corruption. ISAR keeps improving. These efforts aim to recover assets and combat corruption. Democratic education. School texts cover Marcos' wrongdoings. EDSA People Power Revolution Day is marked, and NGOs help record history and build memorials. Anti-corruption campaigns. Civil groups, journalists, and scholars watch the Marcos family fight historical lies and expose their assets. These efforts uphold truth and democracy.
Here is a timeline we made to show the current situation of Philippine government's debt collection. As we can see, the government began to try to recover the embedded funds in 1986. However, until 2003, 17 years later, they recovered a relatively large amount of money for the first time. Even until now, only 30 to 40% of assets has been recovered. Ironically, in 2018, Imelda Macros was convicted of graft but never jailed. In 2022, her son Bobo Macros was successfully elected president, which represented their family returned to the core of power. This isn't just about money. It shows how justice flows when power protects the corrupt. We must ask, does history teach us anything, or does corruption simply return with new face?
The Marcos case offers several critical lessons. First, unchecked power inevitably breeds corruption. Leaders must always be subject to institutional oversight. Second, transparency and public scrutiny are vital. A free press and civil society act as earlier warning systems. Third, anti-corruption bodies must remain independent to investigate and act without fear or favor. Fourth, public education about past abase is essential. Societies must remember history to avoid repeating it. Lastly, international mechanisms can assist in tracing and recovering stolen wealth and reinforcing accountability standards. The Marcos regime serves not only as a cautionary tale, but also as a roadmap for reform.
Okay, my part about conclusion. The Ferdinand Marcos corruption case serves as a sobering reminder of how power without accountabilities can destroy a national economy and erode public trust. Will the Philippines continue to recover the stolen wealth? The true cause of corruption, lost opportunities, broken systems, and generational inequality remains a cautionary tale for the world. Okay, this is our presentation. Thank you for listening.